What's up, everybody, and welcome to Tips episode 4. Today I wanted to do like a live map reading tutorial. I press the map button a lot. If you guys watch my full run videos a lot, you can probably see that. And I just feel it's important to know how to read the map if you want to be any kind of a decent player in Planetside 2. You need to learn how to find fights, but also find favorable fights, and knowing the difference, the pros and cons between like an offensive fight and a defensive fight in general in this game is very useful. Um, but yeah, let's get started with the basics. The first things first is you have to turn on the heat map. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You just press the M button and you're in the map screen, and on the top right you see filters. Click on that, and on heat maps select enemy activity, and booyah, you get pretty much whenever there's an enemy in a hex, you see a red highlight for that hex, and also different shades represent different amount of enemy. So the lightest shade is 1 to 12, as you can see here near warp gate. That's probably an ESF or something. But there's also 12 to 24, a little bit darker, and then move up 24, 48, and 48 plus or 96 plus is really dark red. This is very important because right when you press the M button, the map button, you want to know where the enemies are around you and the other hexes as immediately as possible. So you're gonna be highlighted on the map. Say I'm right at the cursor right here, and immediately when I press M, I'm like, all right, there's enemy right to the south of me, like at Matherson's and at the Traverse. And like having that immediate information, like in the first second you look at the map, is extremely important. And also, when you get used to all the different shades and stuff, like you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I know exactly how many people are in each hex, like in the first 5 seconds of looking at the map. Now, in terms of farm for Liberators in particular, I recommend 12 to 24s to start for a lot of new players, because that's like the perfect balance in between having like it has enough people there to have a decent farm rate, but also there's not as many people. There's usually not enough people in a 12 to 24 to pull AA as fast enough to drive you out of that fight. So like for example at the Traverse, there's like at least this a squad there. They're dropping now. The pop for NC is dropping right now, so probably like a squad left. Their Sunday probably just died, so that means they're probably gonna spawn at Matherson's, right? So but yeah, start off with 12 to 24s. 24 48s can have, I feel like, some of the best farms if if there's like a perfect storm of circumstance that like they're not pulling that much AA, and you can just like totally free farm their armor. So also, but you also need to know the difference between finding defensive fights and offensive fights, right? So defensive fights are probably in general the easiest fights. So for example, there's not much going on. So so say I was on NC and I was at Matherson's, and this Vanu couple squads moves into Matherson's, right? And we have spawn advantage, and so we have spawn advantage and turret advantage. So any NG can start repairing these turrets and get them up, and we suddenly have AA support, right? And also anybody attacking this base has to have, of course, Sundays or Galaxies for spawn points in the area. So just think of defensive fights as always. There's always going to be like at least a Sunday or some armor or a gal for you to kill, because they have to have a spawn point to be able to want to take this base. Offensive fights are like, let's say, Echo Valley, right? Let's say I was NC and I'm at Echo Valley right now. They have spawn advantage. So usually for offensive fights like this, no matter what size, I recommend bringing anti-infantry libs, just in general, because they do have that spawn point and they're gonna be coming out of there. So you know those, like, if you're an anti-infantry person and usually run like Zephyr or Zephyr Bulldog or Duster Bulldog, highly recommend looking for offensive fights only to start, and then defensive fights you can of course still find like great Sunday spawns, but great Sunday farms, but it, like, in those defensive fights for Zephyr Bulldog, it's a case by case basis, and also you have to be comfortable with taking out armor with that Zephyr Bulldog. Um, and since the nerf, it's been like it's harder for newer players to you can still do it, but it's just harder if you're not used to it. But if you're an experienced crew and pilot, go for it. Now, also for 48 pluses, right? Anything big fights, all the big fights, it all the every base is different. So that's the other thing. As you gain more experience over time, you're gonna notice like certain bases being good for libs and other bases not. So for example, Envari Biolab right here, every single freaking tower here has AA turret, so, and they have 4896 right here TR, so it's tough. It's tough. But if you do see, like, I do have my hotspots on that are colored. You can turn that on in the settings menu, and I find it really helpful. So they're hotspotting Vanu. So I'm guessing we probably have a Sunday or two at the bottom right here, and we're fighting on this this pad. So that means you might be able to bring like an anti-infantry lib and farm this pad like at the entrance right here. And with 67% pop on TR side, they're gonna push out eventually, or there's just gonna be like a huge bottleneck right here. So that's gonna be at least decent farm right there. So another thing I want to touch on is like base flow, right? So like the biolab was a good example of how it's gonna flow. Like, they're gonna come in and then out these pads, right? And looking at the pops, like, you could, like, TR pops are still getting even higher and Vanu pops getting squished, so they're gonna push out on these pads. So like, just be ready for stuff like that and taking advantage of that situation, because like you're gonna have like quite literally a maybe 30-second to a minute window of farm right here, because once that TR infantry push comes out, they're not going back, right? And that means all their maxes are going to be on the pad. They're probably going to have some bursters and lock-ons, and some decimators looking at you as well. So you have to be here right as they're pushing out, and and take that infantry farm right when you can get it. And especially with the Duster 10-round magazine, and you're gonna have, and as long as you're flying up close to this entrance right here, oh man, the farm is real. So but let's look at some other oh man, the other bases are locked. But it's good to know over time, like, what patterns emerge. Like, for example, um, like the Bridge Ward Warson's Redemption fight, or pretty much almost any platoon going to the Octagon. Like, if your faction owns Warson's Redemption, 99% of the time, like, any squad or platoon that owns a nearby hex that's going towards Waterston's Redemption, they're gonna bring Sundays and MPTs if they have it, or lightnings to this base. And the great thing about Waterston's Redemption is there's no air cover. There's like literally no air cover. So it's It's really good for farming armor, and I highly recommend this base. If you see this base highlighted in red on the heat map and it's ever 12 to 24, go there immediately, like right away, please, and farm them, cause they deserve it. And if it's 12, I'd say if it's 24-48, they might have enough people there to pull AA, but it's worth checking out anyway, and then wait until they drive you out of that base for you to stop farming. 48 plus, if it's an offensive fight and you have an anti-infantry lib, amazing, because if if your allies are surrounding the base and there isn't like any armor sniping at you from the outer edges, amazing anti-infantry farm, because you're gonna have two spawns right here, and they're always gonna be along these walls right here, or these bottlenecks, and oh man, you can get 10, like 20 kills like per run just with either Zephyr Bulldog or a Desert Bulldog, right? And so let's talk about a little bit. Let's touch a little bit on loadout. In general, I run like Dalton Bulldog, or something Dalton X or Shredder X, right? As you guys can see probably from the full run videos, I don't really run anti-infantry that often. When I do run it, like the farm is usually real or like I'm bored or something. But usually when I'm reading the map and you guys see me press M, I'm looking for armor fights. So, and I'd say the best armor farms that I've had are like the southern edge of Esamir or Indar as well. This is Emerald right now, so yeah, the whole thing's blocking me. But like if you could see it, like where the Crown and Crossroads right here, and Xenotech is probably like the best armor farms in the game. For MBTs especially. But yeah, like, as you get experience, you're gonna notice little patterns like that, like what kind of fights happen at certain in between certain hexes, and that's gonna add to like where you're gonna want to go, and where you're thinking of going, what loadouts you're bringing to certain hexes as well. Like, so, it's gonna take time. Like, I hope this video was a little bit more helpful to see, so you guys know what I'm looking for in general. But TLDR is just start out with 24-48s first. Turn on the heat map. Like, please turn on the heat map. It's so good. Look at this. It's so OP. Look at this. 12-24. I'm going there, right? And also, just a random side note. Don't be afraid to hit up like a faction fight that's not your faction's fight, because I mean, you're in a Liberator, and it's like you're free to roam anyway. So just like, especially if there's no fights along your hexes or along your allied territory, just screw it. Just go, like for example, I'm Vonner right now. There's a bunch of 12-24, 24-48 fights that are 50-50 that are ready, that are primed to just get farmed. So I would go here immediately right now if I was playing. But yeah, hope this video was helpful. I might make a part 2, because this is just off the top of my head sort of stuff, and I'm sure I missed some topics or questions you guys might have. So what I might do is, if I get enough questions that need answering in the comment section or on Twitter, I'll just make like a part 2 of this video, and like that'll be like a clarifications video. Like, I'll answer questions or get into depth of, like, if I get asked really good questions about map reading or something, I can answer it in part 2. But yeah, if you guys like this video, subscribe to my channel so you guys see more stuff. Like the video, please, and share it also. If you have other players, or if you're like a platoon leader and you think this can help out your other outfit mates, share it with them. And yeah, see you guys.